Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gift. In this video I'll be cutting and sewing this beautiful dress. I'll be making use of 3.5 yards of Ankara fabric and half yard of the plain fabric. So I'll be drafting the pattern first. At the top of the paper I'm going to roll a straight line which is going to serve as my shoulder line. From my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. I'm going to mark that down. From my shoulder to my under bust line is 13 inches. Then from my shoulder to my waistline is 15 inches. Then I'm going to come down by 5 inches from my waistline. From the waistline where I came down by 5 inches, ensure you come down from your shoulder to your hip line. Came down by 5 inches because I don't want the plain fabric, that is the band at the waist, to be long the way the one of the thumbnail is. So I'm going to roll out straight lines across all the dots and I'm going to label them accordingly. From the center of the paper on my shoulder line, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurements divided by 2, which is 8 inches. I'm going to come down by 1 inch from that 8 inches as my shoulder slope. Then I'm going to come down by 8 inches from the shoulder slope, that is my round armhole measurements divided by 2. Then I'm going to connect the shoulder slope to the armhole line, to the armhole measurement on a straight line, and it's going to serve as my armhole line. I'm going to curve it out to the other side. So I'm going to find the midpoint of the armhole line by dividing my tape into 2 equal parts. It's going to give me 4 inches. I'm going to go out by half an inch from that 4 inches. On this line, I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches in allowance. Then I'm going to connect the midpoint. I'm going to connect the half an inch from that midpoint to the bust measurement on this line, and I'm going to connect the top to my shoulder slope like this. For the neckline, I'm going to take the depth of 3 inches on my shoulder line. Then on my under bust line, I'm going to go in by half an inch from the center. On the under bust line, I went in by half an inch from the center. Then I'm going to connect the width of the neckline to the half an inch I just marked on my under bust line. Then I'm going to connect the tip of the neckline to the shoulder slope in a slanted way. On this point, which is my chest line, I already have my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches in allowance. I'm going to mark the same measurements on my under bust line. On my waistline, I'm going to mark my waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches in allowance. Then on this line, I'm going to mark my hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches in allowance. And I'm going to connect all the dots together like this. I came down by 1 inch from my waistline. Then on this point, I'm going to go out by 2 inches. Then I'm going to connect the 2 inches to the 1 inch I came down by from my waistline. So if you're using your hip line as yours, you can come down by 1 inch or 2 or 2.5 inches from your waistline. It depends on what you want. So I'm going to use my marker to highlight the line. From this side on my shoulder line, I'm going to go out by half an inch. Then I'm going to use my freehand to connect the half an inch like this to the bust point line. So I'm going to connect it like this to the bust point line and connect it into the main line like this. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you can see what I'm doing. So I want to remove this sharp edge from it, so I'm going to use my marker to highlight it, and I'm going to cut out the excess part of the paper I don't need. So I'll be splitting the pattern into 2 from the under bust line. So from the under bust line, I'm going to split it into 2. Then I want to pleat the top part, so I'm going to slash and spread this on another fabric. So from the top, from my shoulder, I'm going to mark 1.5 inches interval between each of them. I want to cut out just 3 pieces. I don't want to split it into many pieces, so I'm going to mark it from the shoulder. So this is my first line, this is the second line, and I'm going to label them as 1, 2, and 3, so I will not mix them up. Then I'm going to split the paper by cutting through the lines. So I went ahead to place this on another paper like this. So what I did was I arranged them properly on the paper. So the interval between each of the paper is 2 inches. I don't want the gather to be much. So I'm going to follow the shape of the paper and I'm going to trace it on this paper. So ensure you arrange it properly. Make sure your paper is straight before you put them on it. So I'm going to cut the rope together with this part. So I extended it by 11 inches, which I'm going to add another paper to it. So I'm following the shape of the paper to cut this. Then I'm going to use this paper as the extension for the rope. So it depends on the length you want your rope to be. So I'm going to use this masking tape to hold these two paper down. Then I'm going to extend it the way I want it. So from this point I'm going to go up. I'm going to mark a straight line so everything will align. So I'm going to follow that straight line to take the length I want. So I think this line is okay. What I have here is 20 inches. So my rope is going to be 20 inches. You can extend yours to make it longer. So I'm going to slant it to this other side of the paper. Then I'm going to cut out the excess part from it. So I went ahead to use this to cut my fabric. I added half an inch to all the sides of the fabric, as you can see. So I'm going to remove the paper from it so you guys can see it well. So I have two pieces of fabric. So if you want to use a lining piece to turn this, you go ahead and cut the lining piece the same way this is. So I'm going to hem mine. That is why I added half an inch to the sides and to the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hem this part to the end following the shape. I'm going to hem the second part or the second side also. After that I'm going to hem the top, then I'm going to gather the down parts. I'm going to do the same thing for the other fabric. So this is the band. I went ahead to cut both the front and the back. The difference between the front and the back is I added 1.5 inches seam allowance to the back. The back is splitted into two, while the front is not splitted. So this is the front piece. I'm going to remove the pattern from it. You can see I added half an inch to the top and to the down part. I did the same thing for the back. I'm going to fold the fabric into 2 equal parts and notch the center. Ensure you cut out your lining the same way this is. So I'm going to be attaching this fabric to it. I'm going to place the right side of this fabric on the right side of the band like this. I went ahead to gather the down part. So ensure you gather yours or you pleat it to the fabric directly the way you want it. So from the center I'm going to place this fabric and I'm going to pin it to it. I'm going to leave 1.5 inches seam allowance at the side so I can sew it in. I'm going to gather from the center also. I'm going to pin this to the other side. Then I'm going to leave 1.5 inches seam allowance. Then I'm going to use the lining. After attaching this, I'm going to cover the lining and sew it on a straight line at that point to conceal the rough edges. So I'm done doing that. I stitched this to the fabric and I used the lining to turn it. So you can see the rough edges is eating inside. So I turned the back also with the lining piece. So I'm going to place the right side of the front on the right side of the back fabric. So I'll go ahead and stitch the zipper allowance together so I can take my measurements. I want to close the two sides. So on this point I'm going to be marking my under bust measurements divided by 2. So I'm going to distribute the measurements on both sides equally. Then this part I'm going to use my waist measurements divided by 2. I'm going to distribute the measurements equally on both sides also. Then I'm going to use that to close both sides of the fabric. So after joining both sides of the fabric, I went ahead to open up the zipper allowance. So I'm going to measure what I have here around so that I'll be able to cut the fabric for the gathers. So you can just cut your fabric the way you want. So what I have here, I'm going to multiply it by 3 so that my gather will be full, or you can make it bigger than the multiplication. It depends on the amount of fabric you want to use. So I'm going to gather it to those points. So to get the length of this gather, the top part of my fabric is 20 inches. So I minus 20 inches from the full length of my dress. What was remaining was the length of the fabric for the gather. Ensure you add like 3 inches seam allowance to it. So ensure you follow the shape while sewing your gathers to the fabric. So I'm done adding mine, and this is what I have.